Welcome back to these guest speaker series. I have Sasha with us today. We're going to talk all about confidence, which I'm super excited to dive into. So, welcome, Sasha.
Thank you so much for having me, Lawrence. I'm excited to be here today.
So, I know confidence is like a very loaded theme or concept. So, I'd love to hear before we dive into like the nitty-gritty of all of it, I'd love to hear what is your story with like confidence? What is your experience? If you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have always been a really confident person, and that stemmed honestly from childhood. It was just who I was growing up. And I was an actor, still am an actor. And so I feel like a lot of the confidence I've gained over the years was a lot had to do with performance. And like as an actor, and you're always getting up on stage, you have to kind of get confident really fast. And that was just something that I've noticed over the years with other women. How can I help them with their confidence? If you are not an actor or a performer, you're just a regular, person, a wife, a mom, you might be working in business. And I don't think that confidence, I don't think that you're born with it. I think that you can do it as a skill.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because I think most people can't relate to always feeling confident. Certainly can't. And I think it's so reassuring when it's like, it doesn't have to be like a personality thing. Like you can actually build it and it's a skill that you can build. And I love that you brought up like the actor performer thing too, because I'm wondering, have you noticed as you've matured a difference between like confidence when you were little versus confidence now? Because oftentimes, there can be a confidence that is more like facade versus true inner confidence. You know what I mean? Have
A
you
hundred
noticed a
percent.
shift there for you?
100%. I think when you're young, you're fearless. So that confidence can come with that as well. But as you mature and you grow older, you just become more confident in who you are as a person. And I feel like the more you lean into who you are, the more your confidence is magnetic too.
100%. Yeah, and that's something that you can't fake, like authenticity and magnetism. And oftentimes it's like, for me, I've definitely noticed it's like a relearning, a rediscovering myself. And it's almost like embracing certain things that I didn't like. For example, like I have a pretty loud laugh and I modified it when when I was growing up in high school. Like even I remember my brother actually called me out one time because he was like, "You're laughing like that other girl." Because I would sort of like morph or chameleon myself and just try to act like other popular girls. And I realized I was actually like changing the way that I was laughing. And now I'm just like, this is my laugh and it's loud and I don't care. So it's like a really subtle example, but it really does show up in like, for me, just embracing like parts that we maybe think are weird or not good enough, but then that actually is the thing that becomes like more, you become more magnetic instead of just morphing into different versions of other people, right?
100%. And if there's one thing I can say, like when you're more confident in who you are and you really lean into that, you're just so much more interesting. Like, I don't need to see another carbon copy of someone else. It's like you're interested in this person because they are different, they are unique.
100%. And that's something that I know that you've mentioned confidence is self-trust and action, and confidence isn't born. And I really love that because for me, I've definitely realized that I think sometimes we think that confidence is just like this thing other people have. But then for me, what I've experienced is whenever I do something that I don't want to do, it's uncomfortable, it's scary, it's like giving me the butterflies or like, the just feeling super anxious, I feel so much more confident after I do it. And that's how you like build that muscle. So unfortunately, it's really in doing the things that oftentimes we avoid, right? Have you also noticed that?
Definitely. We all have to step into our fear and do things. And most recently, I have been saying to myself, I can do hard things. And that was a saying that I have heard over the years, but it wasn't until recently that it started popping up into my mind. because I was uncomfortable. And I was like, Sasha, you can do this. You can do hard things. And you just have to lean into that as well. Yeah, just stepping into that, that's going to give you more confidence. I do a lot when it comes to like sales, the day job, you know? And that is very nerve-wracking. And stepping into that and doing those hard things, it gets you to the other side too. It takes you on a path.
100%. And I know it's confidence really does show up in like everything, like business, like even when we look at creating content, you can tell the people that are trying to copy other people versus like they're just confident in what they're saying and their message. Obviously, like when you're talking to somebody, if you're confident, they're going to feel that. And then health, I think I've even seen correlations with like if we really don't feel confident in who we are, there can be lots of like self-rejection happening or just not trusting ourselves and all of these things. And I think that can also show up in our health in many ways. And then obviously love and relationships, just like I think it's also easy to sort of morph yourself into a different version of you, but then at the end of the day, like whoever you're going to end up with really needs to see the true you. Otherwise, it's like, who are you in a relationship with? But anyway, so for me, it's like there's so many different categories, but I know the main categories we usually talk about in terms of life themes are relationships, health, and business. And yeah, I'd love for you to touch, if you want, to touch on like those categories, if any of those speak to you or you've had experiences with that. Yeah, I'd love to hear.
I mean, especially when it comes to relationships, it's hard to, you know, open yourself up to people, in relationships, but having that confidence that, you know, the other person is a mirror of who you are. You just have to open yourself up, and hopefully that person is there to support you too. But the more that we do open up, and it's that authenticity again when it comes to relationships, because they're going to relate to you in an authentic way. I'll tell you what, when I was a little kid, I remember these are the things that just popped into my mind. But, I remember when I was a little kid, I wanted to be like another girl. That I knew. And it was so funny. Like, I was in a park one day and I was chatting to this girl I met in the park, and it ended up being the girl who I wanted to be more like, but I didn't actually even know it at the time. So, you just have to be yourself. Even like, when you're talking to people, that was hilarious when I was a little kid. But she was the girl that I used to emulate myself to be. And but just growing, and it's so strange how come we can't love exactly who we are, without trying to be somebody different.
Yeah, and that's something I want to touch on too around self-abandonment, because I think that really is tied to confidence. And I think society really just conditions us to self-abandon and just not, because that's another thing for women. I think we could go on a rant around like if women were really taught and conditioned and brought up to like feel loving and confident about themselves, a lot of industries would go out of business. So that
Yeah.
is definitely one thing that is prevalent. Um, but I think it's also really easy. I know that you were also wanting to talk about burnout, and I would love to hear your thoughts, but I think that building confidence can actually help us avoid burnout because if we're more confident, we will likely start saying no more. We'll probably set boundaries, we'll prioritize our needs, etc. So I think it's not because I think confidence sometimes it can be seen as like this superficial thing, like I just look confident. I'm like taught like it's even maybe like around the performer thing, like speaking, public speaking, but it's
Yeah.
much deeper than that, and it actually impacts us on a generational level as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to burnout, I mean, I've been there myself. Working on your businesses and everything like that. And I had to really, one thing that is really important for me now more than it ever was sleep and rest. and going to bed early so that I could wake up, feeling rejuvenated the next day. And I feel like with work, and I know a lot of other women feel the same way. I've had this conversation once this week, but we go into our masculine energy when we get into our jobs. And like I'm even, I feel that myself, and I have to get up earlier in the morning because I need to take care of myself before I go out into the world. And then I go to work and it's like work, work, hustle, hustle, male energy. And when I come home, I completely switch back into my feminine energy. And I think that if you're able to balance that yin and yang, the masculine, feminine, I feel like you won't burn out as much as you did before.
Yeah.
And so getting that rest is really, really important for me. I was talking to someone about that and how they were burning out. They were working to the midnight hours. That just doesn't work for me anymore. I don't even know why that worked for me in the first place. Um,
It's like your early 20s, but then it goes downhill.
Exactly, exactly. I'm like, and it's not even the energetic part that because you're younger, you can energetically do it more. I just find that the more I take care of myself, I'm more resilient every single day, and I'm even giving 100% of myself, in the morning when I'm taking care of myself. That's all for me. And then I go out into the world and you're expelling your energy everywhere, and then you come home and you bring it all back. And doing that, and that really helps you with a better rested night ahead too.
Yeah, I love that you also touch on like basically the feminine, masculine energies because this is something that's definitely trending, which is great because we're actually thinking about it. Because I think it's also like this generation now is like, I don't really want to do the burnout and hustle until I'm like retired. And we're kind of like rethinking things, which is great. And obviously, there needs to be a balance, especially if you're going to be a woman who is working. But I don't think, like you said, it needs to be like one extreme or the other. And can we even infuse like feminine energy into the workday, like in terms of like creativity, fun? Can there even be fun in work? Like, does it all have to be like, hustle and like struggle? And I think that it's obviously the goal is to really be able to do work that we each enjoy. And I think that also helps having that balance versus doing something that you don't enjoy. So that can be a work in progress. But
Yeah.
I think, like you mentioned too, sometimes even if you're going to a job that maybe you don't really like, or it's, draining or whatever, how can you have pockets of your day, like you said, even just waking up earlier, having your me time? Because me too, I can't just wake up and like go. I need that like buffer period for
Yeah.
sure to like get my energy right. Because otherwise it's just depletion. And I think that's the point that you also made sort of brought me to how burnout for me, when I sort of really reflected on it, was not just about the physical stuff. It was actually feeling really bored, uninspired, doing things that I didn't want to do. There's also an energetic burnout that can happen where we just do things that we don't want to do. And it's just like this bucket that's leaking because of the things that we're saying yes to, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and I understand that completely. Like, not everyone is in the job of their dreams. And that can be draining for a lot of people. And then you look on social media and you're like, wow, they're living this amazing dream life. And it's only like, the clips and the highlights of what they're doing. For me, I've got my crystals on my desk. I pick them up. I hold my crystals in my hand whenever I can throughout the day. I even in my telephone, in my alarms, I have alarms set to raise my energy. So at like 11 o'clock, I'm big on 5-minute dance parties. If I can't do a 5-minute dance party, is it singing a song in the car? Is it, raising my hands that I learned from Tony Robbins over the years to just raise your energy level? So there's definitely things that you can do throughout the day. And especially like, some of us who are at a desk job, to get out on your lunch break and go for a walk. That's a major energy shift, throughout your day that sometimes we don't even think about it. We just get into our work scroll hole, and these are things that you can do throughout the day to keep you energized and happy, because it is your own happiness too. It's not just raising the energy level, but how amazing would you feel if you did that 5 minute dance party throughout the day?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's easy sometimes to be like all or nothing, where it's like, well, what's 5 minutes going to change? But it actually is going to change something. And like exploring like what is it for you that really does shift your energy. Because I definitely understand if it's like, you aren't in the situation that you want to be in, but it really does start with the baby steps. And I think getting your energy right, not only affects your magnetism, but like you will actually attract more if you are having a more elevated energy. Like people, opportunities are probably going to come into your life versus if it's just going through the motions like day to day, right? So I think
Definitely.
where can you start? Even the smallest aspect, because I think it's very um it's very easy to just get stuck in the like, well, I only have 5 minutes, so what's that good change? But it actually could change a lot, and it's like a domino effect because then we can start to stack new habits and things like that. So I really love that you mentioned that, and I definitely want to get into morning routines. But before we do that, I did want to also chat about like the myth of like feeling. There's a lot of this be in alignment, like feeling aligned, um, stuff going around, and I've definitely fallen into the trap of like if it's aligned, it's got to feel good. And if it doesn't feel good, then it's not aligned, which is actual total BS because oftentimes the things that we want to do or the things that are really going to build our confidence and like help us move forward are the things that are going to be maybe a little bit scary, or we're going to have like self-doubt, and maybe we're going to have to do things that we don't want to do. And oftentimes it's like where we hide behind this notion of like, I have to feel aligned for it to be aligned, but like aligned means like it needs to feel easy, but that's not true. Like
Definitely.
oftentimes confidence, like we said, is going to come from doing the difficult thing. So I think it's also important to just kind of paint the picture that building confidence is not always going to feel good, but in the long term, it's going to like pay off, but there's going to be like that uncomfortable feeling, if that makes sense.
Definitely. I think anything that you're doing that is new is going to make you feel uncomfortable. And just getting through that uncomfortableness is going to be a reward on the other side. And that reward may not be automatic because we live in such an automatic world that you think it's going to happen right away. It evolves over time, even with me, doing my life coaching, that didn't happen overnight. It's taken years of me becoming a better person that I'm able to help other people. So that doesn't happen, when you even like when you're going to college, it's like 4 years of education or however long it is. And it's not even a time, issue where we are evolving. Things take time. Nothing comes to anyone overnight. I love seeing, before and present day for where people have grown in their life, because it looks like, oh yeah, this just happened for them overnight, and it never, ever, ever does. So I think that you just have to, go through uncomfortable things um, to evolve, really.
Yeah, and I love that you touch on like the immediate gratification essentially versus the long-term confidence and fulfillment. And I think especially, with this society around like everything is so quick. Like you could get everything within 5 minutes, like your meal delivered to you,
Yeah.
movie on Netflix, like everything is just instant. So it's a lot harder to actually train your brain to actually, work for the long-term fulfillment and not just go for like the immediate gratification. But I think that is really important to touch on because oftentimes I think also confidence comes from like what you stop tolerating and being able to actually communicate that. Because I think there can be also misconception around confidence equals being loud. And so maybe some people also think that, oh, I have to have this completely different personality. Because I think sometimes for like introverts, and people like that who are just naturally not as like loud and like extroverted,
Yeah.
confidence can just feel like so out of reach. But I think, as we mentioned before, it's really not about changing your personality. It's really about being rooted in who you are. And you could be a
Yeah.
quiet person, you could be a loud person, and you both are confident, but it comes across differently, right?
Definitely. I mean, listen, I am really an extroverted introvert or introvert extrovert. I'm not really sure which one.
Chameleon.
But to be an introvert, that's it. You have to lean into who you are. And that will bring you more confidence. That's going to bring you more magnetism at the end of the day. If you're an introvert pretending to be an extrovert, that is going to be so uncomfortable for you and draining, absolutely draining at the end of the day. Even though I have to rejuvenate myself at the end of the day, or if I'm around a lot of people. Not to get into astrology, but I'm a Cancer. I'm an empath. I feel everything. And so yes, and that is part of me being an introvert is my Cancerian, tendencies. Like we love to like live in our shell. And so you definitely have to lean into that as well about being who you are.
Yeah, and I think that's a natural discovery process, because I think we can all naturally fall into that of like, oh, I should be more like this person who seems really confident. And then we sort of like chameleon our way into that. And then we're like, it doesn't fit. So then we try something else. And then I think eventually you kind of come back to like, who the heck am I?
Yeah.
But as we mentioned as well, I think it's really an evolving, maturing process too that happens over time. And I love that, I think women are definitely owning this more. And there can be a lot of pressure to look a certain way or be a certain way in terms of like what society deems appropriate and like what year it is, because even styles and trends and body shapes are going in and out of style too. So
Yeah.
essentially, I think what we really see as well is the people who are the most magnetic and we're just like, what is her energy? Like, I want to be around her, are the ones who are really just like they stand out because they're different. And it can be really hard, especially when we don't feel that way, to just think that we need to be like those other people. But
Mhm.
essentially, we are all so unique, and that can show up in any way. So it really is a process. It's not like an overnight thing, obviously. But I would love to talk about morning routines, but I know you did chat about getting up in the morning and having your own routine. But morning routines that help you rewire your mindset or help you like with the feminine energy aspect, like help, fill up your cup, as well as support you with that building your confidence. What are
Yeah,
some morning routines that you love?
my morning routine, it's interesting because I really didn't have a morning routine before. I read the book The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And I mean, I know millions of people have read it, but it literally changed my life. It gave me the principles of creating that morning routine. And I was always a morning person. I was always up early, going out for my walks. So I guess subconsciously I had some sort of morning routine. But now I wake up and I automatically do a meditation. Whether it's guided or if I'm doing a visualization for myself, that's the first thing that I do because your brain is more receptive to that when you first wake up. And then I love to get up and I make myself a lemon water with sea salt so that my body can hydrate. And that's while after I drink that, I make my coffee. I'm a huge, huge coffee person. I love it. I'm never gonna give it up. I love my coffee in the morning, and that's part of my morning ritual. I have a really wonderful coffee that I buy, and it for me, coffee in bed is a luxury. And so that first cup of coffee I love to have in bed while the coffee is brewing. It's the 5-minute dance party. And the dance party, it's not about like dancing like you're in a club or anything like that. I go onto my Spotify, I hit play, whatever song comes up is the song for the morning. And you have no idea what that could be. And the whole point of doing this 5 minute dance party is to move your body and to get the blood flowing. So if there's a kink, you're just going to have to work out that kink. So it's never about looking good. I'm in my pajamas, I'm just moving my body. And by the end of that song, your energy level has already shot through the roof. And that's when I get back into bed with my luxurious cup of coffee and I do my journal writing. I work on what I'm grateful for. And it's always good for me to remember what I was grateful for the day before. That helps me. And then just setting an intention for the day. And it doesn't have to be long. It can be three or four, sentences. Um, and then I do some tapping. My tapping also helps me get in alignment with my energy as well. And then I need to exercise. So I've got to move the body again. And I try and do it in the mornings, but honestly, like a day like today, that just didn't happen. So before I go to bed tonight, I will do an exercise. And that doesn't have to be long either. Sometimes I do a 15-minute workout on YouTube. I'll do some stretching, I'll do some yoga, I'll do my kettlebell or my weights, but I always do something different. Because I think that when you do your exercise, when you do it in the morning, I feel like that still gives you more energy throughout the day. And then that's when it's time for me to go on my morning walk. And my morning walk is about 20 minutes, so it's not very long, but this gives me the opportunity to connect with nature before I go out into the world. I absolutely love it. This morning, I got to see a family of baby ducks going through the canals by my house, and that brought me so much joy. And I also smell the roses along the way. And so you'll always find me smelling the roses, that high energy smell and beauty. I'm on a high for the next, part of my walk. And so I'm very intentional about that morning walk. And then I come home and start my day, get in the shower and get into, work mode. But I really set myself up. And my morning routine is only about an hour and a half. It's not a long time. And I know not everyone may not have that time, but you condense those things to make it work with your life.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because sometimes I'll have an hour, sometimes I'll have an hour and a half, weekends I'll have 2 hours, but there are definitely times where I don't. So, but I do love to have a combination of like you as well, where it's like walk, so movement outside, and then personal development. So I'm like listening to something, then obviously like breakfast, that kind of thing. So there's like meditation and breath work too. Sometimes it'll be 5 minutes, sometimes it'll be longer. So I love that you mentioned that too, because we could elongate certain things, but we could also do a combination of things in a shorter time, or you could even just pick one or two. But I think it is important to even just be intentional and not just kind of like fall out of bed and then start your day. And it doesn't have to take long as well, because I think it's going to really look different for each person.
Definitely.
Before we tap, before we tap into the tapping, I know that you did mention a few things before we recorded, when we first spoke about this episode around things like dressing up to really help with that confidence. And I'd love to hear if you want to expand on that, but then also any other sort of hacks or like supportive tools that we could use in terms of help to build our confidence. I know you also mentioned affirmations. So yeah, are there any things like that that you would really recommend for someone who really wants to kind of like go on the journey of building their confidence with like micro steps?
Definitely. I think when it comes to confidence too, it does have a lot to do with how you put yourself together each day. I think that's really important. I don't wear a ton of makeup. Um, I'm not even saying that makeup is for everyone because it's not. I love going throughout my day without makeup. I like to, but I'll put on like something that makes when I put on a little bit of makeup and a little bit of blush, that instantly makes me look happier. And having the rosy cheeks, a bright eye, you know, and even doing my hair makes me feel good. When I look good, I feel good. And when it comes to like clothing, I think this is really important because I know sometimes we are super busy and a pair of yoga pants are the best thing that was ever made for all of us.
Yeah, guilty.
But but leggings, the whole nine yards. When you and this has nothing to do about style. I have my own style. What makes me feel 100% me is a pair of jeans, a pair of loafers, and I love a cashmere sweater. That is luxurious to me. Now, that's not going to be for everybody, even one of my rock and roll t-shirts. I love rock and roll. When I put that rock and roll t-shirt on, that makes me feel like myself. So it doesn't have to be one extreme to the next, but when you're putting the kind of clothing on that you love and you're walking out into the world, you're gonna feel like you're walking on your very own, red carpet or your very own, modeling walk, the catwalk. That's how you're going to feel inside because you feel so good about what it is that you put on. And I think it's really important, ladies, to have comfortable shoes.
Oh yeah.
How did I ever wear the heels that I did? I invest in really nice, comfortable shoes. I'm a big fan of that, and I buy a lot on sale. Some of it I will, if I can't get a good deal, I'll pay for it full price. But I will tell you, for the past 4 years, my feet have been comfortable.
That's also something that comes with age. You're just like, for me too, I would wear like more uncomfortable clothes and shoes. And now I'm just like, comfort is way more important than it was back in my 20s.
100%. And you can be fashionable and comfortable. You don't have to give anything up, but I also love a good dress when I'm going somewhere. When I have the opportunity to dress up, I do like to do that. It's so funny because I just watched another episode of And Just Like That with Carrie Bradshaw, and
Mm.
I see her walking around New York, and I'm like, why don't I wear outfits like this every single day?
Yeah.
I know it's a TV show, but she really pulls the fashion forward. And why not? Why do women buy things and leave it in the closet for a special occasion? Like why aren't we wearing that whatever it is when we feel like doing it?
Yeah, it really makes you want to get out of your yoga pants when you see people like that dressing up. And that is a good point too, because that's something I catch myself with. It's even like the good underwear, like why do you always leave that to like for a special occasion? Because I think that's the other thing around, dressing up or even just wearing like your good underwear. It's the thing that you really emphasized was how does it make you feel? It's not even like who sees it, do you get a picture? Like it's literally how you feel. And that's something that I also had to sort of catch myself when so you mentioned the yoga pants. And when I started working from home, it was very easy to me to get into the yoga pant and just like sweat top vibe. And one day I was just like, I don't feel good. And I
I
started to
know.
challenge myself to actually like trying to dress up a bit, and it's something that really changes your state, which is crazy, but it also makes sense. So it is something that I think takes a bit of effort, but it also doesn't have to take much effort. Like what is something that makes you feel good, but you also, you feel comfortable at the same time. And for me, sometimes that looks like I need to go through my wardrobe and get rid of some stuff because it's just like
Yeah.
this doesn't make me feel good anymore. So I love that you mentioned that because some people might think initially that it's superficial, but it actually is not. It's really about like how we feel. And it's also a way of like expressing ourselves as well, right?
100%. It's how you feel, it's expression, and how you feel is the energy that you're putting out into the world. People are going to feel that you don't feel great.
Yep.
So the more that we're at home or you're going out to work, you want to feel good because that feeling it's just going to infect other people as you see them throughout the day. Even online, we can feel that energy.
And it creates a domino effect in terms of like, if I am in like hobo mode, like sweats and like, my hair is not, I'm not having a good hair day and I'm going out and like, it's almost like you hope no one sees you. You're
Yeah.
probably not gonna like talk to the person or, get outside your comfort zone or, you know what I mean? Like you're not gonna take opportunities on that you would have if you actually felt like I look and feel good. You're probably
Yeah,
just kind of gonna hide and then like run home and then there's not much that's going to come to you if you're closed off, right? So it actually creates a
exactly.
domino effect of like what comes to you and what you actually embrace and go out and do, who you talk to, etc. Because yeah, I think we've all been there where it's like, I really hope no one sees me right now. I was gonna run home kind of thing.
And
Right.
it's not even about investing a ton in your wardrobe either. Even for me, like for work, I have a handful of pants that I rotate and I have shirts that I rotate. I'm not there for, a fashion show, but I know that when I get up every day, I'm gonna, feel my best.
Yeah, and there's honestly like maybe 3 or 4 tank tops and like 3 t-shirts that I'm like, whenever I clean them and they're like ready again for the next week, I'm like, ooh, I'm like, I just feel good in those ones. And they're like just basic and be, classic. So it's not anything crazy either, like a fashion show, like you said. But
Yeah.
I think it's just having those staple or like a few items that you really do feel good in. And then I think our wardrobe just like grows over time too. Like you don't need to go full out and change your entire wardrobe. But
Right.
it can even start with like, okay, I'm gonna find new pair of pants and a top that I really like, and
Yeah.
then kind of growing from there.
Definitely. And get rid of the things that don't make you feel good.
I love that you said that because that is something that I think is so hard for women where it's like, but I could wear this. Maybe there's an occasion for it, but you haven't worn it in like 4 years and it's
Yeah.
taking up space in the closet. And sometimes it's just like, if you haven't worn it yet, do you really love it that much? There are exceptions, obviously, like for occasions
Definitely.
that, come up not all the time. But that is something that I've definitely struggled with over the years. But I think it's also like, a detoxing of I'm shedding old skins.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. One lesson that I learned this week that I will bring up is I need better shapewear. I wore a dress this last weekend and when I got my photo back, I was like, "Oh my God, this does not look good." And so you see how you always have to invest in yourself and in your wardrobe. So for me, my next investment is going to be a better shapewear.
There you go. That's the next thing. And yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have known if you hadn't seen the picture, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I did feel uncomfortable that day, which is interesting. I did feel uncomfortable. And next time I wear that dress, I will feel much more confident because I'm going to invest in that shapewear.
Yeah, exactly. And you can probably use it for other outfits as well.
100%.
There you go, upgrading. So I know we have a few minutes left. I love it if you have some time to guide us through a little tapping session.
Yes, I would love that. Okay, let me get my notes together here real quick. So tapping, I have been doing EFT tapping for many years now, and I just felt amazing as I was doing it. I took a deep dive into learning about it and also getting certified in it because what I kept finding was I didn't find anything feminine about it, like a feminine energy. I was learning from a great man, but it didn't speak to me. So I just decided to, delve into this. And EFT tapping, in case you don't know, is emotional freedom train tapping, and it works on your meridian system. And so it may look a little bit silly, but just go with it. We're going to do something that, may cross your uncomfortable zone right now. So this is for EFT confidence. We're going to start with our karate chop, which is right here on the outside of your hand. And so we're going to start with releasing self-doubt. And I'm going to say something and you can repeat it after me. All right. Even though I sometimes doubt myself and don't always feel confident, I deeply love and accept myself. Even though I question my worth and worry I'm not magnetic enough, I choose to honor how I feel. Even though I sometimes shrink to fit in, I am open to stepping into my natural confidence and power. Going to go to the eyebrow. I feel this doubt in my body. Go to the side eye. Sometimes I worry I'm not enough. Under the eye. I feel unsure of myself. Under the nose. What if I'm not seen as magnetic or confident? The chin. What if I don't fully embody my power? It's okay to feel this way. I'm learning to release this self-doubt. I'm open to seeing myself in a new, empowered way. Now let's reclaim our confidence. Even though I felt disconnected from my power, I choose to activate my confidence and feminine magnetism. I am safe to be seen. I am safe to radiate. I am stepping into my confidence now. Hang on one sec. Sorry. Okay. I remember who I am. I am powerful. I am radiant and magnetic. I attract opportunities and people aligned with my highest self. My confidence is rising. My feminine energy is safe, strong, and beautiful. I am naturally magnetic when I am my true self. Got one more. I allow myself to shine. And now we're going to anchor in our feminine magnetism. I now fully embody my confident, magnetic self. I choose to stand tall in my feminine power. I radiate authenticity, ease, and beauty. I trust myself. I walk in a room and people feel my energy. I radiate beauty and softness. I magnetize love, success, and aligned opportunities. I am allowed to take up space. I am confident, radiant, feminine woman. I deeply love, honor, and celebrate the woman I am becoming. And then just put your hand on top of your heart and hold this energy inside. Take a deep breath in.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, thank you.
And I love that EFT you can always just go back to in a moment of feeling not confident, stress, whatever. So you can always hit the rewind button and go back to this EFT whenever you want. I love that it's so accessible. You could do it in your car, like anywhere. So thank
Yes.
you so much for guiding us through that.
Yes.
Definitely use that whenever you want to, whoever's watching this. And yeah, thank you so much, Sasha, for today for this conversation. I think we had a great conversation around confidence with which I think so many people can relate to as well and in so many different ways. So I really appreciate you sharing your story and all of your wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And if you want to share, if you have anything going on, social media or anything that you like to share with the audience, let us know what you have going on, how to find you, or yeah, what's going on
Yeah,
in your
I
world.
have my website and my blog, which is Wander and Refresh. Wander and Refresh. Oh my gosh, now I'm forgetting the name of it.
It's so
Wander
relaxing after EFT.
Wander and Refresh dot blog. But I'm also on YouTube, which is where you can find some more EFT tapping.
Yeah,
I'm doing a lot of videos on there. So there's some shorter ones and that you can come along and tap with me. But that's the best place that you can reach me. I'm also on Instagram under Sasha Gary Health, and I'm pretty active with that as well. So yeah.
amazing. Well, I'll put all the links in the show notes so we can find you. And thank you again for coming on today.